She lifted the gray suitcase with both hands and flung it into the lake, a clean, arc-carving moonlight. Before my brain named what I'd seen, my ears caught a wet, muffled thump, then a faint, desperate whimper that didn't belong to things or accidents. I ran, shoes skidding on slick dock planks, hauled the weight with numb fingers until the zipper teeth scraped and surrendered. And when the trapped sound surged into panicked scratching and breath, my life tilted off its axis and every tender part of it snapped into danger. You're watching Revenge Files. Subscribe for a new twist daily. The suitcase reeked of lake mud and perfume. My hands shook so badly I missed the tab twice before I forced it open. A cold sheet of water spilled over my knees, white fur surfaced, slicked to tiny ribs, a pink tongue gulping air. Pearl, my husband's 8-pound Pomeranian, the last breathing remnant of him, was zipped inside my daughter-in-law's carry-on like a sweater. She clawed toward me, coughing. I pressed her belly, cleared the water, and felt a drumbeat return under my thumbs. Someone had tried to drown my dog, someone I had let into my home. But then the motion light snapped on above the path. I looked up in time to catch Brenna's silhouette crossing the hill, ponytail swinging, shoulders squared like nothing in the world was wrong. She didn't look back, not once. I wrapped Pearl in my cardigan and sprinted up to the house on South Shore Boulevard, every step a refusal to faint. My son's name flashed on my phone. I let it ring out. I was in no shape to hear, "Mom, you're overreacting." I was in exactly the shape to open the kitchen drawer where I keep the emergency folder and slide out the spiral notebook where I write dates when people show me who they are. I started with tonight, May 14th, 2023, 11:42 p.m. Pearl zipped inside Brenna's gray Samsonite and thrown into Oswego Lake. Witness, me. Evidence, damp suitcase, mud streaks, ring camera on the carport, water stains on the white soles of her Veja sneakers. Except upstairs I heard water run, and Brenna's voice float casual and sweet, singing along to a pop song while Pearl trembled like a sparrow against my ribs. I called the Clackamas County non-emergency line and asked what you do when someone tries to drown an animal. The dispatcher's voice was steady. "If the animal needs care, go to Dove Lewis. For a report, we'll send a deputy. Are you safe to wait?" I stared up the stairwell at that thin wedge of bathroom light and said yes, though it tasted like a lie. Pearl survived because the tech at Dove Lewis warmed her with a bear hugger and said very gently that small dogs don't fall into suitcases and zip themselves inside. I paid the $415 bill, photographed the receipt, and captured every angle: Pearl's sodden fur, the zipper, the lake silt inside the liner. Numbers make people listen in rooms where feelings get dismissed. One problem: the night wasn't done with me. At 2:18 a.m., in my driveway, a deputy photographed the suitcase on the hood of his cruiser and said, "You did the right thing documenting as you went." He wrote a case number on a card. He told me animal services could pursue cruelty charges. He told me if I felt threatened, I could seek a protection order that included the pet. I nodded so hard the stars blurred. Brenna came downstairs in a robe, hair twisted in a towel, eyes wide in a practiced blend of innocence and offense. "What's going on?" the deputy explained. She gasped on cue. "Marion, that's insane. Why would I hurt a dog?" Her sleeve slipped just enough to show a damp triangle. "I went for a walk," she added. "It's hot." I didn't answer. I reached under the counter and pulled the little white tile tracker we clipped to Pearl's collar on hikes. My late husband used to tease, "That's your disaster brain talking, mare." I pinged it. Pearl blinked. Then I opened our Ring app, scrolled back, tapped. The deputy leaned in. The video showed Brenna carrying the gray suitcase down the side yard, careful and sure-footed, not like someone who'd found a stray bag. No audio, but motion doesn't lie, until you push it. The deputy's posture changed. He took statements, left me the card. I locked the guest room from the outside with the tiny flathead key you're not supposed to keep, but I always had. I slid a chair under my bedroom knob and slept with Pearl's tiny heart under my palm, letting each beat talk me down from imagining the minute where I could have been too late. By breakfast, Brenna had a new version. She found the suitcase at the dock and was bringing it up to the house. She forgot to explain why she never called out. She couldn't explain the water sloshing when I unzipped it. "You're making this a thing because you never wanted me here," she said, buttering toast with a blade-flat stare. You've undermined me since the engagement. I let her talk. Then I did my favorite quiet thing. I opened my file. I printed screenshots. I made a second copy. One to show, one to lose. But then I started my clock. I'm 56, widowed 18 months, holding the deed free and clear on a cedar-shingled house with a cut of lake view where families paddleboard on weekends. I told myself letting my son and his wife stay for 6 months would help them save for a down payment. I told myself it would soften the ache of returning to a silent house. I did not tell myself that grief makes you polite when you should be firm. I texted my son at 8:03 a.m., "Come home. We need to talk before work. Bring your key." He's a project manager for a commercial HVAC outfit in Tigard. Reasonable, kind, conflict avoidant like his father. He replied, "On my way." Except Brenna read the clock too. She called her mother. She called 2 friends. She called the HOA president, the same woman who cites garbage cans left out 12 minutes past pickup, and said there'd been an incident that might involve a dangerous dog. I watched information curve like a boomerang and prepared to catch it when it came back with teeth. My son arrived, kissed my hair, and went white when I told him. He asked Brenna the exact wrong question. Why? Wrong because it invites performance and surrenders the frame. She wept into his shoulder. She said I'd misread her. She said I hated her and whipped tiny reminders into spears the time I corrected her tip math, the time I moved laundry when she forgot. She stacked air where facts should be. I didn't argue. I set the suitcase on the table. I pressed play. I slid the vet report across the oak and pointed to near-drowning hypothermia risk. I placed the deputy's card beside it like a paper gravestone. I asked my son to read the timestamp on the video, then the timestamp on Brenna's text to her mother. I did it, followed by a crying laughing emoji, because villains now mistake irony for cover. He stared at her a long time. His mouth went flat. "That's not what it looks like," she tried. Her voice had a hinge in it. The door swung inward. I panicked after she snapped at me, she added. "I just wanted to scare you," until she made her bigger mistake. "You pushed me to it," she said, and I watched the sentence land on my son's chest like a brick. We agreed on a practical thing. They would pack, take a week at her mother's, breathe, speak with a professional before anyone came back. It sounded adult. It sounded like a bridge. It was, in truth, a fuse. While they carried boxes, I froze the secondary cards on my bank app. At 2, I called a family law attorney in Portland whose website listed outcomes by date, not adjectives. Retainer, $8,200. I said yes. Money buys time, and time lets truth line up. By 3, my attorney, Keisha, voice like a cello bow, told me what mattered. Oregon allows restraining orders that protect pets if there's credible evidence of abuse. A judge can grant exclusive possession of the animal and restrict contact. "You've got a clean paper trail," she said. "File now. Don't ask for apologies. Ask for orders." We filed that day. We attached stills, the ring clip, the vet bill. We requested a hearing in 10 days. I wrote another line in the notebook, May 24th, temporary order or nothing. One problem, the blowback didn't wait for the hearing. 2 days later, the HOA emailed that the board would discuss repeated disturbances at my address and apparent endangerment of a community member's safety with an aggressive animal, with a $500 good neighbor fine if I didn't appear to clarify. Brenna had weaponized bureaucracy before I poured the second coffee. Except Keisha smiled through the phone. "Ask for the board's complaint packet," she said. "They aren't a court, but they keep a record. Every word she files is a statement against interest." I requested the packet with polite teeth. Within an hour, a zip landed in my inbox. In it, Brenna's typed report, time-stamped, May 15th, 9:06 a.m., claiming she'd saved Pearl from the water. Attached, a photo she took of the suitcase on the dock. The embedded metadata placed her there at 11:39 p.m., 3 minutes before my ring saw her walk down the side yard with that same gray case. I printed the metadata and added it to the stack. Evidence grows like coral when you keep the water clear. The mid-roll surge didn't come from court. It came meaner. Brenna emailed my son's HR to say he lived with a violent animal and implied volatility on job sites. They called him in, heard policy, placed him on unpaid leave until May 29th to allow stabilization, 2 weeks without pay in a month when interest rates make every grocery receipt look like a dare. Except she'd signed with his last name and spokesperson, letting Keisha fold the interference into our petition as harassment causing financial harm. Keisha added a clean sheet with big margins: relief requested, cease contact order, exclusive possession of residence, pet protection, no interference with employment. Lawyers know how to stack needs until they look like one inevitable ask. May 24th, 10 a.m., Clackamas County Circuit Court, Courtroom 3B. The air smelled like sanitizer and old carpet. Brenna sat in tailored navy, hair in a ballerina bun, posture advertising innocence to the cheap seats. Her attorney smiled like he knew the last page. I told the truth in short sentences that didn't wobble. I named dates and times like a rosary. I described the arc, the sound, the weight. I said the part where my hands missed the tab twice. The ring clip played. The judge leaned forward. Brenna's attorney objected about context. Overruled. Brenna said she heard something and rushed to investigate. She said she grabbed the suitcase on instinct. She said she panicked when confronted because I have never approved of her. She cried without tears, a trick that stops some men and bounces off women who've survived real weather. Keisha waited, then slid the HOA packet into the light. Respondent submitted this statement the morning after, Your Honor. The metadata places her at the dock at 23:39, prior to petitioner's discovery. The judge studied the screen, then Brenna, then me. Temporary protective order granted, he said, voice sanded flat. No triumph, just decision. Exclusive possession of the residence to petitioner through June 24th, pending further hearing. Pearl remains with petitioner. Respondent to have no contact with the animal and no contact with petitioner outside counsel. No interference with employment. Violations will result in contempt. He signed. The clerk stamped. Ink makes the world real. But then the world revealed a deeper rot. In the crawl space behind the water heater, inside a black trash bag, I found a second suitcase. Inside, my late husband's signet ring, the one I'd misplaced, and a vellum envelope with my name and what looked like his hand, only the loop slumped and the line weight stuttered like a counterfeit pulse. Tucked with it, a typed draft of a letter to our trust administrator asking to move assets for Marion's safety into an account managed by Brenna. Dated May 28th. The plan: drown the dog, film my panic, tell a story about my instability, then petition to control the money under the banner of concern. Keisha exhaled one low note. That's elder financial exploitation planning, she said. You caught it early. We filed a police report, lodged a fraud alert at the bank, and notified the trust administrator, an Alabama steelwoman who replied within the hour. Any requests touching Marion's trust now require in-person verification with counsel present. Period. One problem: villains hate periods. On May 29th, my son returned to work because the order barred interference and because good men still stand when the wind blows. On June 2nd, Animal Services cited Brenna for attempted animal cruelty. Misdemeanor, classes mandatory, fines to be set. On June 24th, we were back in 3B. The judge wore a gray tie. I remember because I fixed on it like a lighthouse. His findings were specific. He wrote that the respondent's testimony lacked credibility when measured against independent video, metadata, contemporaneous medical records, and law enforcement notes. He entered a 1-year protective order. He granted me exclusive possession of the residence for that term. He ordered her to reimburse my out-of-pocket vet expenses and $1,750 in attorney's fees tied to the HOA harassment I didn't ask for. He referred the forgery attempt to the district attorney for review, under a financial exploitation statute I did not Google until later with a sandwich in hand. Brenna moved into a small apartment off Barber Boulevard a week after. I know because my son forwarded the lease guarantor form with one line. I declined. He wore his wedding ring for a while, then set it in a dish by his sink. He started therapy on Tuesdays at 5:30 and texted afterward, I keep apologizing for things I didn't do. I told him that's the last part to heal, except healing is not linear, it's a long shore with hidden dips. There were ripples. The HOA rescinded the fine and issued a clarifying letter, which is how bureaucracies apologize when they hope you'll move away. We didn't. The board president now waves when she walks her lab past my hedge. I wave back because my late husband taught me the mathematics of magnanimity. It pays compound interest at family reunions and at Home Depot. In August, Pearl learned to nap beside my pottery wheel, a new skill I gave my hands so they'd do something besides clutch. I sold blue mugs and oval platters with glaze drips that looked like lake water. I priced them fair, not greedy. At the market, a woman asked about the tiny paw print near my maker's mark. That's Pearl, I said. And the way she tilted her head told me she understood how dangerous it is to underestimate what people love. In September, the district attorney charged Brenna with attempted animal abuse and attempted identity theft tied to the forged letter. She took a plea, 12 months probation, 8 weekends of community service at the shelter she once called gross when I dropped off old towels. Restitution payable at $125 a month. You'd be surprised how satisfying a check can be when it's stapled to the precise wording of a court's command. But then the last ember tried to glow. An envelope arrived addressed in my son's hand, inside a softer letter in hers, asking whether, for the sake of family, we might lift the order early. I read it at the kitchen table, where I'd pressed play on the truth. I didn't write back. I forwarded it to Keisha, who filed it under attempted contact, and sent a crisp response through counsel reminding them of the order's date. June 24th to June 24th, 1 year flat. Dates matter, so do lines. I didn't post about any of it. I didn't march into her office with copies. I didn't feed the beast that turned private homes into stages. I did one practical thing, then another, and then a third, because revenge that lasts looks an awful lot like accountability, written down with dates and served by someone in a blazer. On the anniversary, I walked to the dock at dusk with Pearl in a life vest, because I am nothing if not consistent. The lake wore its late September skin, cool, reflective, pushing back orange light with a polite not yet. I set Pearl on the boards and scratched the halo of fur behind her ears where the vet shaved to slide warm air under her skin. The ring above the carport blinked its blue confidence. I listened. I remembered the thud of a suitcase hitting black water, and the way my heart stalled as if someone had pinched a cord inside my chest. I thought about how I've always loved details. Receipts, timestamps, the quiet sound ink makes if you lean close. In the end, those small things lifted what I couldn't carry alone. And when I finally zipped my cardigan against the breeze, I realized the steady drum I felt wasn't fear anymore. It was Pearl's tiny heart, stubborn and patient, keeping time with mine.